Hey, everybody. Welcome to our very first Etherealogy Podcast. I am Carol, and I'm here with Anthony and Tracy.
Hola.
Hello. All righty. And we are excited to bring you this episode. We're very interested in a lot of different spiritual matters and modalities, and we get together a lot and just chat about that. And we thought it would be fun to invite you guys to listen in. And we're happy to have you with us today. Our episode this time is called What is Spirituality? And for me, it's hard to define spirituality because I think it's a very personal journey for each and every one of us. And you can't help but tie spirituality, the idea of that, to the idea of religion as well. But in general, for me, I feel like it's just knowing or looking for things that are outside of ourselves, outside of our human existence, even, and this idea that there's something more than just this life here on earth. There's something more than just being human where we are right now. So whether that means to you, alien beings or just angels and guides, whatever it is, we're looking for answers.
And Carol, of course, is very professional, in her intro there and giving the perspective of it. But I was like, if you said to me, what's spirituality, you get 2 words and it's like personal journey. And then I'll have to just ramble. But I think that is the case, actually, for a lot of people that explore spirituality, let's say. They do it on their terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I'd actually encourage it.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you read something, and even that you can read something and take advice from it, but it should always be a stepping stone. It should always kind of cause you to ask more questions rather than you read something and you accept that as ultimate truth. And I think actually, I never said to myself, I'm going to be curious. That's just part of my personality. I don't accept something as ultimate truth. I go and explore it. And actually, I think spirituality and the stuff that we'd be doing is interesting, but also new. And let's say if you go and find something and then it blows your mind, it's like, now I'll be back for more.
I was just sitting there thinking, Anthony, when you were like, oh, I don't like anybody to tell me how to think or whatever. I'm like, you are the worst about doing that to yourself. You're so logical that
Oh, yeah, I am.
you're
So
very
bad.
much like, how do I prove things to myself? So it's funny you said that.
I'll be curious and find something and I'm like, how do I validate that now?
Mm-hmm.
And want to know the ins and outs of it. But I never take somebody else's words or truth to be my own until I explore it myself. And that's why I encourage other people then to do the same thing. And that's what I mean Tracy get on. Tracy is similar in that she explores stuff and goes down rabbit holes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I was thinking when you were talking about the personal journey, that's a good 2 words for it. And then I was kind of cracking up to myself listening to you guys because I was thinking, man, I think even doing the dishes can be a spiritual experience. If you look at it sounds weird, but it is so personal. I see so much growth in myself through the most mundane things, but that may not be the same for somebody else who has a ritual around it. And so I just feel that being open to that we are spirit, we're spirit even when we're not in our human form, at least that's how I feel, and spirit's all around us. So it is an ever evolving journey and you could find it in even the most mundane things and you shouldn't discount that. So it goes back to Anthony talking about curiosity and just asking questions. I'm like him. I'm not one to subscribe to answers. And sometimes even if I think I have an answer, I want a new answer with a little more depth to it, So it can be like a gift and a curse all at the same time. So I was born into a Catholic family with a lot of Catholic values, and I did the whole baptism, confirmation, all of the things. And in my adult life now, I'm really grateful for that experience. But I've also, because I've always been somebody to ask questions and not be settled with answers, I have to do things, learn for myself what makes sense. I have so much gratitude for being exposed to a religion, even though it's a structured religion. And I feel like that's part of my spiritual journey. But now in my adult life, I'll learn something from my puppy. He'll do something and it will help me and my own spirituality grow my own soul in this journey just by watching other people or accepting other people's reality other animals like their reality, the world around us, it's everywhere.
Tracy, is that something you developed
Uh,
as an example, or is that?
no, that's just me. Like I used to talk to the caterpillars and butterflies, and it was always like maybe not in, it grows, right? But thinking about my childhood, I think we should all give our little experience of that. But for me, I would always like wonder, like, what's their life like under the dirt when they're crawling around? And so I didn't know to call it spirituality, let's put it that way. But reflecting on it now, I see it as part of the spiritual journey. I think that we're all spiritual from a young age and our whole entire lives. And I think as we get older, we figure out what it means to us, like being a child. In reflection, maybe I didn't know to call that spirituality when I would communicate and make stories with the animals and see their life cycles and all of those things that sparked my curiosity. But it was part of the growth of my own spirituality. And I value that now as much as I value being exposed to Catholicism and Buddhism and some of the other
Yeah,
things.
I agree about being exposed to religion. I was raised in a religious household, went to religious school, always went to church, and I don't mind even now saying like religion is fine with me and I can believe in it and I don't follow all of the rules of religion. And so even as a kid, I had a problem with that. Even as a 5 and 6-year-old, I kind of knew like, I don't think this way is the only way. I don't think the religion I grew up in is the one that everybody there is saved and nobody else is. It made no sense to me as a child that there would be a God who, oh, you're my favorite people and everybody else sucks. Like it didn't make any sense to me. So I feel like as a kid, just thought, to me, God felt like love. And even though I had no real understanding, that was kind of my innocent childhood understanding. And I carry that with me now. So I loved that I questioned even then, like, this doesn't sound right to me. What else is there? But also as a child, I was very different in the sense that I could see spirit and I knew things that other people didn't know. So psychic stuff. And it took me a while to figure out that not everybody did that. So I was kind of open-minded from the start. And that's what you guys were talking about. Is like, I don't like anybody else telling me how to think. I did never have that problem of questioning because for me, it felt right. And I wish we could all be like children in that sense and just go back to what makes sense to you before you get people with different ideas telling you what to think or how to feel or how you're supposed to act. I don't know. That's my tangent. I'm sticking to it.
Did you feel extra conflicted with,
About
let's say, as a child with your faith, and then psychically and intuitively knowing?
I did. Because I didn't want to tell anybody because it was told to me like, oh no, those are evil things, not good things. I know that now that is not true for me. I don't feel like it's evil. I feel like it's very healing, very helpful. And to me, it's also a way of connecting with people on an energetic level of loving, of heart to heart, soul to soul, spirit to spirit. And that's more important than following somebody else's rules. But it was a conflict for me.
Yeah, and I think organized religion can sometimes, even some spiritual groups can put you in a box. And I think it goes back to what Anthony was saying earlier about personal journey. If we can turn the focus back on ourselves, realizing that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, hopefully you get to a point where you just get curious with your own, whatever spirituality means for you, to grow yourself in that way and have it unfold in that way. So it's like when you ask, if you want to get curious about things, it's always good to ask a kid, because they have, like Carol was saying, kids have like just these minds that don't have all these other things bogged down on it. And they say some pretty magical things,
If no filter.
Yeah, no filter and no bias, really. So open to ideas and honor other people's ideas as their own, then we can find more understanding between each other, which also helps your spirituality, I feel.
There's a common thing across all of us there, in the sense that we've always been curious, right? So even as kids, we spoke about being curious, and it's almost like, let's say, ideas or philosophies or scriptures, whatever that was put in front of us during those years, never kind of formed our identity.
Yeah.
And we never lost our curiosity. And actually, I think then the fact that we kind of even found each other and even have so much fun exploring spirituality is because we still have that curiosity that the child has. And I always say, like, find your inner child. But because you have lovely stories as well with your faith, but I was like, I literally like got rid of it. So I was born into Catholic family as well, raised Catholic, but I remember being a teenager and as in the last conversation that we were having, me with God. And I was like, fuck you. And if you are real, when I get back to heaven, there is going to be war because I will not tolerate a being as powerful as yourself leaving the world in such suffering and pain as it is. So if that's the God that you are, I want nothing to do with you. And you better, hope that the gates of heaven are locked because I'll create war when I get up there otherwise. And that was the end of me and Catholicism. And then the funny story is, obviously, I'm a bit of a nerd. So then over let's say the intervening years, I started looking more into science and I love space. I love astronomy. And then I discovered like quantum mechanics and like that shit blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, like, how can all of this be possible? And then actually going into that rabbit hole. So imagine being more logical. So no wonder where I get it from. It served me well. Being the scientist and going more into science literally made me find spirituality.
Yeah.
So I always say I left organized religion, became an atheist, and then found spirituality because I never lost my curiosity.
Yeah.
Or being open. So even when I found the stuff in quantum mechanics, that wasn't the end of the story. It was merely the next piece of information. And then I would be looking for the next piece and the next piece and the next piece. So I try to live by that because it'll serve me pretty well. As well as that, if we don't follow a particular doctrine, that we're all going to hell.
Oh my God, I was just thinking.
Yeah, but Tracy, of course you were just thinking it. Then we pick it up telepathically. But I was like, down to hell, I don't give a shit because I'll meet the two of you down there and we'll have a great laugh.
Yeah.
Three of us again. And
I'm not going to be there.
Well, you're the first down there. You're the first down. I'll get you to hold the door open.
We're seekers. I think all of us are seekers. We all like to read, we research in our own way, and then again, just talk about this stuff. And it took us, from what, we've talked a lot and we know each other's stories, but it took us all kind of a while to find our tribe of people we could talk about these things with, who aren't going to be looking sideways at us and who very much can get into this idea of things that we know in our hearts are right. And so for me, I wasn't necessarily looking for the scientific answers like you guys may have been, but because I knew it was right. Even as that child with that faith, I knew there was something else, and I knew it wasn't as it was being presented to me. So for me, I was looking more for that validation of what I already felt was right. And I didn't need it to be scientific. I just needed it to be kind of on a more spiritual level, which I got through different events in my life, one of them being extreme loss of somebody. And that totally changed my perspective. Even though I already believed in this idea of spirituality, it really made me want to explore it even more and even more. And that's not the only event. That's just one idea of it. So constantly being open-minded, I feel, is a basic tenet of spirituality, because we're not just accepting, just because we don't see it, we're not just accepting what somebody else's idea of it is. We can all have our own idea. And that's what I like about it too. So my idea does not include hell, Anthony.
But going back to what you're saying, Carol, like, it's so interesting. I think we have to be careful too when we do get we have our own little tribe of people on the same wavelength. But I feel like in order for the collective, let's say everybody, I'm like happy if somebody loves their religion, whether it's Catholicism, Buddhism, Muslim, because it's closer, they have some sort of spiritual connection. And I love what Anthony said about returning Catholics to okay, well, why? Let me go back and find out why all these rituals. Because I needed the logical answer as well. And I had the anarchist cookbook, I'm just all down there. So but yeah, getting curious, but not everybody does, not everybody's wired to be curious. Maybe some of the work we do, we're kind of more wired to be that way. But there's so many people that have structured, organized religion, and they have solace in that. And it's really good for them. And I think that's great too. And I think if we can just all, again, going back to personal journey, being open, like the seeds will continue to be planted, through sharing the experiences and welcoming others' experiences as truth for them.
Well, I agree. I think that religion does belong in the discussion of spirituality because it's all about a faith and a faith in things that you can't see. And I'm not opposed to religion at all. I still am part of that. And I think that this is what we need, is something to believe in. We need more than just ourselves. And the idea of religion is outside of ourselves as well. It's giving us something to believe in, it's giving us hope, giving us something to look forward to.
I went through a process with actually the whole idea of religion. So imagine I turned my back on that and then cursed to God that, put it in motion. And then, that was the case for years. And by the way, sorry, I do not believe in hell either. Let's just put that out there. I was like, there's no fucking such thing as hell. It's grand. If anyone ever asks me, it's like, don't worry, you're not going there. It's just a construct from centuries ago. So no, I'll meet you all in heaven. But I had that, let's say, thing with the religion where I was like, this is done. And actually, I looked in it negatively. So in other words, why does it even exist? Why did it have to come into being? And well, obviously, now like that, I try to get my answers from spirit anytime I'm curious, and then an answer might feel right to me, or I'll carry on searching. But actually now, so in hindsight, a couple of years ago, I was of the mentality, why does this exist? Why does it have to exist? But now actually I see it's part of the evolution of humanity's spirituality. In other words, it's just a stepping stone for the collective human species to move on to the next level. Are we saying that all of the people that have lived all over the centuries, millions of people, that all of their souls are damned because they didn't believe in a particular faith? No. Nothing happened to any person, human, that has ever lived. They're all still now, let's say, gone back to spirit. They weren't punished for anything. If you kind of step back and see that, suddenly you get a totally different perspective, that all of those ideas are perfect if you need them, but you should never live your life by someone else's words because they're just an interpretation of some particular event or experience. All of those words I see them as an invitation, almost inviting the reader or whoever to explore, let's say, part of their spirituality further. Not to stop because I suddenly read a book and now I know everything about all there is to know. And now everyone else who doesn't agree with me as well, I have a problem with. That's absolutely ridiculous. Put it this way, someone might say, oh, but I'm a Catholic and I have to abide by this faith. No, you're abiding by the words that somebody else wrote centuries ago. And what you're not honoring is the curious nature of the human spirit, which is your gift from your God or whoever you have faith in. So in actual fact, you're getting so caught up in the words in front of you, you're missing the gift that you are given from your higher being or whatever you want to believe. So that's just my tangent now.
You only get the one, so I guess you're done. I think it is an evolution, and in our own spirituality, like I said, based on maybe experiences or conversations with other people, books you've read, all of that. And I agree that don't take somebody else's word for it because nobody knows everything, and we don't know what we don't know. So it's the idea of being open to the possibilities. Why we like to have these discussions, why we like to invite other people to join in the discussion. Happy to hear other people's perspectives too, because then it gives you something else to jump off of. Oh, I like that idea. Let me think about that some more. Even if you don't read a book about it, it's coming up with what fits for you, what feels right for you. And I think that we should all be doing that all of the time.
I love hearing about your experiences, or even how you were brought up and then the evolution of your spirituality and what it means to you. I find that really interesting. And I don't take any of it then to be ultimate truth or whatever. If anything, I should start more questions from it. And so that's, again, is just me being curious about their journey. But their journey does't mean any more or less than my journey.
Right.
And all I ever hope for them actually is that they get to a place where they kind of discover the amazing things that I feel like I've discovered so far by being open,
I agree with you. And it just circles back to the original point, everything is spiritual and we all reflect on our lives. I think it's important for people to not judge themselves also, with where they are, because the journey never ends until we leave this human body, right? And then we're still here, but in different form. So don't judge yourself too hard. If you feel like you need to make a decision, it's actually better to not. It's better, like Anthony said or Carol said, like ask questions, get curious about it. Well, what do I want? Why do I feel that way? What do I want to know about this? What do I want to know about that? And be open to growing and be open to learning from one another. Openness on the personal journey it's really beautiful if you allow it.
And Tracy, because I was just thinking before we end soon, where do your answers come from? Because that was a discovery for me. So let's say you have a question, right, that you want to know something about spirituality. Do you put that question out to the universe? Do you ask someone? Where does the answer come from?
The answer comes when I stop thinking, like I have a busy brain. I have like 50 projects going on at one time, and even the rabbit holes can get me into a place where, I feel like I'm looking for something to resonate or looking for an answer. And I have to stop myself and be like, just go feed the chickens. And then I'll be walking to the chickens and then I'll get the answer, right? Because I actually like stepped away from the thinking mind of it. So I feel that because our higher self, God, spirit, whatever you want to name it, is always with us. But I think sometimes, like for me anyway, being too focused on the human part keeps me out of the evolving or getting those spiritual insights.
It's like having two voices.
Yeah.
One is an ego voice and one, let's say, is your soul voice.
Yeah.
Right? And if your ego voice is really loud, your soul voice can't speak.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing when people are reading scripture and take it as ultimate truth and it forms part of their identity. Now that's their ego.
Yep.
They're afraid to lose that part of themselves because it's literally the part of their identity. Their ego basically would think that it's going to be annihilated if it loses that piece of itself. But yet, if they quiet down the ego for 2 minutes, the soul would be more curious and they'd actually learn more.
And a lot of people have grown up thinking they have to do that. A lot of the way the world operated, at least in America, is like, you got to do this, you got to do that, and you got to work harder, you got to make more money, you got to whatever. And so there's a lot of pressure maybe that a lot of people grow up with, thinking they need to check the boxes, if you will. And so
there's a lot of fear as well.
Yeah.
Drives that thought,
So I feel like you're saying kind of a meditation is where you might get some answers. But
Yeah.
I get stuff in dreams sometimes, and very interesting dreams. But I'm also one who likes to read or watch videos or listen to a podcast or get information from a variety of sources, even classes. Love taking classes. But I cherry pick what feels right to me. And maybe cherry pick isn't the right word, but I do choose and feel that I'm not taking everything that any one person said or wrote or anything like that. I have to go with that fits what I think I believe, and then I kind of form that belief as I'm processing that information. So know that you can do this. You guys can choose for yourselves what resonates with you. You don't have to take it all. And I would get so frustrated reading, let's say, a book. I'm looking for answers specifically about spirituality or how to do this thing, how to do that thing. And I won't get all of the information by the time the book is finished. So then I have to go get another book and then another book or another video or something like that. And I realize like it's a constant growing, it's a constant changing, because nobody, again, has all of the answers, or maybe they don't have the answers that I want. But then that's where our own hearts and minds can come into play, saying, what do I want to take from this? What have I learned from this? And it will just be little baby steps, little baby steps along the way.
I had to discover that answer for myself as well, that there was no kind of exit to the right, or if you do that, technically you stop breathing.
Yeah.
But Carl, you have great dreams and you tell us about your dreams and they're so vivid and you remember them well. I put it out to the universe in a sense that I was like, I'm curious about X, Y, and Z, and I want to know the answers for them. And then, no joke, I'm blown away sometimes by how quick, but book will land in my lap. Someone will give me a book, or I'll be online and something will pop up. So people have to be open to where the information is coming.
Yeah.
And then, like Carl said, you feel whether it feels true to you. And if it doesn't, discard it. You're not punished for that. And I asked the same question as well 3 or 4 times. I want the same answer in 3 or 4 different ways because I'm too logical and too much of a nerd. So, put this way, spirit knows that they will not just answer me once.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, that's it for us today on our episode of What is Spirituality? It's always fun to have a chat with you guys, and we also thank our audience for listening in too, and hope you had a good time. And as we say goodbye, I'm Carol, and we also had Anthony and Tracy.
See ya.
All right, you guys tune in to the next episode, and we will see you then. Bye-bye.